Hello friends. Today what we see is this is our like kind of agenda for today. What we will see in this is the nested virtualization on cloud. Okay, and these are like 6 points that we are going to cover in this video tutorial. The thing is, I mean, there are now various scenarios in which you want to, uh, run and a kind of virtualization on the cloud VMs. So let's say you might have heard about like either VMware Player or no or Oracle VirtualBox. So what generally we do with that is in our base operating system. Let's say if you have one, if you have your laptop, right? So on that laptop you will install Oracle VirtualBox, and inside that VirtualBox, basically you are going to create any kind of image of any operating system like Linux or Windows or any other operating system. And then on that virtual operating system, basically you will install further things and then do your practice and all. Let's say just for Hadoop, you want to create at least 2 or 3 node Hadoop clusters. So what you will do with that is, create 2 or 3 Linux images within VirtualBox, and then join them together to form a Hadoop cluster. Now, what happens generally is now if you see that we have like $300 free account you can get on Google Cloud, and then do practice over there for learning the cloud stack of Google. Similarly, Azure also will provide you $200 free for 1 month. AWS also has some free tier. Most of these cloud platforms, they work in a similar fashion, and now, sometimes what happens is, let's say you will get some kind of already created VM image, okay, that you can no you can run on your local machine. Of course, no issues. But sometimes, let's say if you have 2 or 3 members in your team and they all are on different location, and then how you will centrally create that particular VM on a particular cloud so that all of them can access simultaneously. Okay, so this is something the scenario for which actually these steps or this overall video will help you to create that kind of virtualization. Okay, so if you just want to use that particular product locally, no issues. You can just have VirtualBox on your system or VM player on your system, and then just pull that image and start running it. Okay, but that cannot be shared to someone like your friends or any some of your team members and all. But basically, if you can spin up that overall virtual machine somewhere on the cloud, then what will happen is like cloud can be accessible from everywhere, and anyone in your team can also access the machine that is running onto the cloud VM. Now, when you talk about nested virtualization, this is a kind of term that needs to be understood, and though it is not very generally used in the cloud platforms, because it is not actually required at all. Most of the times, so in the production scenarios, in the production systems, definitely you should not use it, because again it is not that performance oriented. Okay, you cannot get performance because anyways when you talk about VM is running on the base hardware, it will not give you that much performance. And now we are talking about running VM inside a VM, just like you have VirtualBox. Inside that VirtualBox, you are installing one more VirtualBox, and inside that you will create your image. So it is that scenario. So that is, of course, will not give any performance. So for production use, this is not required, this is not recommended. But yes, for some certain POC kind of stuff, you can easily perform this kind of setup, and then share the virtual environment with everyone in your team. Okay, so this nested virtualization is supported on all the platforms. Like you can go either on GCP or on Azure, on AWS, everywhere it is supported, right? And what actually there are few specific steps that we need to take in order to create a virtual machine that will support the nested virtualization. By default, any machine that you create on any cloud platform will not have default enabled option for the nested virtualization. So that we need to understand. So this overall practical, or this overall things that we are going to set up, we are going to do it on GCP. Okay, so GCP cloud. Same thing can also be done on Azure as well as on AWS. Okay, so let's start with that. So here, this is the console of my GCP, and this is the document basically that we are going to follow, it is a very little document, not that heavy number of steps. So basically we will start with creating a virtual machine that is enabled for the nested virtualization. Once the nested virtualization is on that, basically we will enable the remote desktop connection on that virtual machine. So most of the times when you talk about a Linux operating system, it will not come with kind of desktop version of it, right? So whenever you install any Linux operating system on any VM on the cloud, basically you may always need to work with it on the command level, just like connect through putty, to giving IP address and all, and mostly you will work with it on the command line ways. But sometimes what happens is, like when you talk about Virtualbox installation and then creating further more machines within the Virtualbox or VMware, definitely you will like to work in a GUI fashion. Okay, so by default the GUI or you can say by default the GUI way of working with that particular Linux operating system is not available. So we need to modify our image in such a way that we can go through the GUI way and do kind of the like kind of using our mouse and some clicks. Basically we will set up the remaining things. Then once we have that RDP connection enabled for our VM, we will install VirtualBox over there. And then I have already one Teradata database image on my Google Cloud storage. So it is around 4 GB of database. We need to pull it to our VM. We will just extract it. It is a kind of a 7-zip file. Basically, we need to extract it, and then finally we will just import the image of the Teradata VM into the Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, and since we are running a VM inside a VM, definitely there would be a lot of networking involved. Okay, it is not going to be easy, and it is like most confusing part of set up the networking in such a way that you can then access the running database directly from your system, or anyone else can also access the running database directly from their systems, right? And finally, once everything is set up, we will just access the database. So once you learn this, right, how to create a nested virtualization VM and then install everything. So nowadays what happens is, like, basically you will get some of the some of the products basically that you might use in your projects. Mostly they will give you some kind of VM, right? VM ready made or ready, like a very single node or two node kind of VM they will give you. So you can just import that .vmdk file or vbox file onto your VirtualBox or VMware player, and then you start using it just for your practical learning purpose, not a kind of something that you can use or you can productionize it, right? So ultimately, whatever we learn, it is not going to no, it is not going to help you in doing productionizing anything, but just definitely it will just give you some kind of ways of running the things on cloud in the nested virtualization fashion. So first, to create a nested virtualization, what we will do is we need to create a bare, you can say, instance of Linux. So what I will do, when we talk about this nested virtualization, the steps involves in it are like this. First, we need to create our VM, okay, for which or like for which we need to actually create a nested virtualization environment. So we will create a simple image. Okay, whatever operating system you want to choose, in which region you want to choose, that is all depending on you. Once you create that image, you need to stop it, and then you need to create disk image from that particular instance. Okay, so once while creating that image from the instance, basically you can give the option that, okay, this image, whatever image you are creating out of that instance, will have the option in which you can just provide you that this image will be enabled for the nested virtualization. So once the image is ready with the nested virtualization option on, then whatever instance you are going to create after that using that image is going to help you, or all those instances will definitely automatically have nested virtualization enabled inside them. Okay, so let me just quickly show you. Though I have already created one image like that, but I will just let you know the steps. Though we are not going to use whatever we just for this demo purpose, I'm not going to use whatever we will create in this demo. Okay, but let me just quickly show you. So you need to go on create instance. Okay, so once this create instance come, the instance name you can just choose. So let me just have this instance 2 as it is. What I will need to do is basically, okay, I can again select the custom over here. So you just customize your machine, whatever you want, like 2 core CPU, 16 GB and all. And then on the base, the important part is here, which operating system you want, right? So mostly the nested virtualization is supported for CentOS and Ubuntu, and you can just follow the documentation on the Google site that for nested virtualization, which all operating systems are basically can be used. Okay, because it does not make any difference for us, because even if whatever operating system you choose or whatever operating system Google is saying that okay, this operating system images can be enabled for the nested virtualization, basically you can go for any one of it, because Oracle VirtualBox anyways can be installed on Linux or Ubuntu or CentOS or Windows anywhere. I know, because finally you are going to run your virtual image inside VM. Okay, but VM is completely independent of operating system. So I'm going to choose CentOS and I will put CentOS 7. Okay, this standard is 20 GB. You can just again modify it to at least 80 GB or 100 GB, because again you are going to install VirtualBox inside this, and inside the VirtualBox you are going to create a new image. Okay, so it may require more hard disk. So 80 GB to 100 GB is quite enough, but for demo purpose I will just keep it as a 20 GB. So I am saying select it. Okay, again you can customize this VM for hardware purposes, like 2 core CPU or 16 GB RAM and so on. And once you have, just create it. So as soon as this image is created, for instance, let's say to this, it is getting created over here, right? So it will take matter of seconds. And once it is created, what we need to do is we need to stop it, because as soon as it is getting created, it will start in the on mode. Okay, so currently if it is right check means it is currently running, so I'm going to stop it. Okay, so we have just created, though if you try to use this instance too and try to install VirtualBox inside it, it is not going to work. Why? Because by default any machine that you create, it will not have the virtualization or nested virtualization option on by default. Okay, so I'm going to stop it. And once this is stopped, what you can do is you can create. So you need to go on gcloud, that is over here. So click on this active cloud shell. What it will do is it will just spin a very little VM for you at the background, and it will just give you the command shell option for running the cloud commands. I'm just letting clear it out. Okay, and what you need to do is basically just understand this command. Again, you need to just copy and paste it. Okay, nothing else in that. So gcloud compute images. So it means that we are going to create an image out of certain instance. Okay, the name of that image is going to be this image VBD1. Okay, this is the name of our image. Okay, where do you see all those images or existing images that you can use? So go on this images section, click on it, and once you have this images, basically you will see all the pre-configured images that you can directly utilize to create any instances out of it. Okay, so similarly we are going to create our own custom image, I can say, right? So the name of our image is going to be image vbd1. The source disk is going to be instance 2, because this is the instance out of which we are going to create this image. Okay, so instance 2 we have just created. Okay, it was running but I had stopped it now. And the source disk region or zone basically is from. So basically it is the region or zone from which you are actually pulling the image. So it is instance 2, it is actually created in Asia Northeast 1B. Okay, and then this is the option that will actually enable while creating the image, it will internally enable the nested virtualization option like that. So I will just copy and paste. What it will give you is creating one image. Now you can just refresh it. What happens is hmm, okay, so instance 2, maybe I'm not sure if it is running or not. Let me just check it. Okay, so the thing is the instance 2 is not somewhere in US central, so I will just copy this. Okay, and I will just correct that one over here. So I had Asia Northeast 1B, but it is somewhere in US Central 1A. Okay, it all depends on how you create a your VM. So mostly the region that is much closer to you, region wise, there you can create the VM. So let me just rerun this one. And once it is spinning, or once it is actually started creating at the back end the image, let me just go on image page, image console, and you will see that one image is definitely going to be created. See, image vbd1, it is getting started creating. Okay, so from this particular command. Okay, now the thing is, we are not going to use this image because I already one similar to this image vbd, in which there is a centos 7 and this option is on, and it is around 70 GB of hard disk that I have given to it. Okay, and then while creating the instances from it, we can choose the hardware on our own. Okay, so this is just the way you can do it. Let me just delete it now. I don't want to use it, so it is getting deleted. Now what you can do is, we already have this image vbd1, the similar way I had created, or similar way that I had shown you, it is going to be used, or it is going to be created like that. Okay, so I'm going to use this image vbds. Okay, so let me go on VM instances. Let me just close this thing. Let me just kill that command. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's already killed. Okay, so I'm going to delete this instance book. It was all for our demo purpose, so I'm just deleting it, and I'm going to create a new instance. Okay, let's say it is going to be instance 3. Okay, I will not rename it, but I'm going to create this in, let's say, somewhere in Asia Northeast one region, whatever you can choose. Okay, I'm going to then give some good amount of hardware, at least 2 CPU cores to it, and around 16 GB of RAM to it. Okay, and then instead of choosing any existing thing, I'm going to do in custom image. Okay, so I'm not going to choose anything from public images that is already pre-created for us, but we have created our own custom image. Now this time it is image vbd. Okay, so just select that one, image vbd, and it is automatically telling you that it is going to require around 70 GB of hard disk. So just change it to SSD persisted and select it. Okay, so once we do that, again, to securely log into it, basically I'm going to choose, let's say, some security thing. So I will have my public and key pair already generated. Okay, so this is my this is putty private key, and let me, this is my public key that I'm going to copy in this VM. Okay, this is just for accessing the VM from my local machine using putty. Okay, without giving any password. This is the best way to secure your machine. Okay, so I think we are good with this. Let me create it. So once it is getting created, we are going to use this private key, that is, the counterpart of the public key, to log into it. Okay, so then we need to check whatever image that we created right now. Basically, is it enabled for the nested virtualization on or not, right? So we just need to run this command called, this greps -cd. What it will do is, basically, it is trying to pick that if any virtual cores are available within our VM. Okay, that will actually enable, or it's like kind of a VTX, that is a technology called virtual technology, that will tell that a particular machine is enabled for virtualization or not. Okay, you might have seen that when you use your local laptop, sometimes what happens is, if your virtual technology or virtualization is not on, that is actually something needs to be done with some BIOS, that is basic input output setup of your web laptop. If it is not on, you're not going to install, even if you install VirtualBox or VMware, you're not going to create any image out of it. Why? Because the virtualization is not enabled on your base machine, and that's why it cannot be used. Okay, so our instance 3 is running. This is the public IP address. I'm going to copy it, and then I will go into putty and then copy this one, and in the authorization section I will choose the private key, that is this one, and I'm going to log into it. So once I will log in, let me just put my user ID, that is Miman20. Okay, let me make this thing bigger appearance wise. I don't want bales. Now if you run this command over here, right, this one and just see what it shows. So it means that we have given 2, right? So you might have seen that when we created our instance 3, actually we had given option 2 as a number of CPU cores, and those are available to us. Okay, by default, if you create a machine and you are not creating this machine without by using the VBD image or your custom image, whatever you choose, okay, by default you will see 0 over here. Okay, 0 means if you get the output of this command to be 0, it means that your machine is not ready for virtualization. If it is more than 0, that is 1, 2 or whatever how many, then it is definitely enabled for virtualization. So we are good with this first step. We have enabled the nested virtualization. The second step is to enable CentOS VM for RDP. So basically what I mean to say is, when you say remote desktop on your system, okay, here you can get a GUI way of interacting with your machine. Now our IP address is this one. If I go and type it over here and try to connect, it will not able to connect, or it will give you some error message. Okay, the particular machine, it is not actually, because the thing is, if you have not set up it for RDP, the port on which the RDP, that is remote desktop connection, works, basically it is not at all open. Okay, and it is actually trying to connect to that, and it is giving me error now. So we need to configure the machine in such a way that we will get that. So the way is, since it is CentOS 7, we need to just do that. Okay, and one more step that is required is just install this related softwares, that is qemu VM. Okay, actually the command is there for apt-get, that is Ubuntu, but we can use it for CentOS also. So let me just do sudo yum update. So it will just update all the repositories for you. Okay, it may take some time. By then I will just pause this thing. It is done. Let me now just do sudo yum install qemukvm. So this is actually related to the hypervisor that will ultimately help the VMs to run inside this nested virtualization. Okay, so once it is done, we are good with it, and then we will go for installing the RDP way. Okay, so we are good with this. Now I will just say sudo yum install this xrdp. It will just install the RDP extension. Then I am going to enable this. Whenever a system comes, it should automatically come up. Then I will start this RDP and install the group for it. So once we do this, we just need to reboot it. Once the machine is rebooted, we will try to reconnect this a remote desktop connection, and it should be connecting then. Let me pause by then. Okay, so this is done. We just need to create session and change this session file. Okay, so once we are good, just do sudo reboot. Let me pause by then when it comes. So I have rebooted my machine. Okay, and now try to connect using this. Now if you see, our RDP installed properly, and now it is giving option to log in. So just do yes. Okay, let me just minimize or just resize it. Okay, so my user ID is Mimant20. The problem is I do not have any password set up for my user ID inside machine. So let me just quickly change the password. Sudo PASSWD, and for Mimant20 I'm going to change the password. I am giving certain password. password is changed, so I can use that one over here. Once you install the things, it will come like this. Okay, so this is beautiful. I mean, this is one way of interacting with your VM out. So we have one VM. Now inside this, we are going to install VirtualBox. Okay, so for this, what we'll do is again, we'll follow the next step. So either you can do install VM player or VirtualBox, both are okay. Sudo update we already have run. So let me go and run this. What it will do is it will install some kernel headers or conduct development for kernel development packages and uh, the other dependencies. Once this is done, we just need to reboot, and then finally we will pull the installable of VirtualBox, and that is RPM related to VirtualBox, and then finally we will install it. So it will take some time. Let me pause by then. So it is done. Now we just do a quick reboot. Once we reboot, actually our remote desktop also get disconnected. So I think it should be okay now to reconnect to it. Just do restart and just log in again. Now pull your Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, we got this, and then install it. So it will take few seconds, few minutes. So let me pause by then. Okay, so our VirtualBox is installed finally, and I just ran this command called sudo this one. It will check whether everything is properly combined or everything is properly linked, right? So kernel is required for this VirtualBox. So it is now saying active, no? So we can just also start it. And recheck this command, and you will see the things it's started. What I can do is let me run one more command. So once you do that, just connect to RDP and give user ID and password. And what you will see is when you go on application and on systems, basically you will see the Oracle virtual VM is appearing over here. So you can just start it. Again, then so it is like you can now further create any virtual machine inside it. Okay, so we are now in that particular part where we are going to create VM inside VM. Okay, our whole virtual machine, our whole machine itself is the VM running on the Google Cloud. Inside that, we are going to create one more VM. Okay, so for that, what we will do is basically we need to pull one Teradata image, that is already there. So we have done this, right? Install virtual. So these three steps we are done. Now install Teradata database. How we can do that? Basically, if you go on this Google Cloud, actually I already have extracted it and put it in my storage. Okay, so I will just show you where it is. Again, you can just get it free from Teradata website. Okay, it is said to be TDexpress VM. Okay, it is having around 4 GB of size, and when you expand it, it is coming to around 24 GB of size. So let me just go on cloud storage, that is over here. Let me browse it. Okay, so inside this bucket I have that image already. Okay, so this is that image called this one, Teradata, this 7Z. Okay, so I will pull this and then extract it on our Linux and then finally import it into our VirtualBox. Okay, so okay, now go to your VM and just do gsutil and do list of all the buckets that you have. Okay, so I am having this bucket. Let me just list the contents of this bucket. Okay, so this is that file that I'm going to pull. So what I will do is I will just say make a directory called mkdir, let's say td. Okay, inside td I'm going to pull this. I will say gsutil copy, okay, to home month and day. That is going to pull it, you know. It may take some time, so by then I will pause. So we got this image. Just do ls minus lrt. So we have now, the thing is it is .7z, okay, and there is nothing in my CentOS that can unzip it, right? So I need to install one uh, thing called p7 zip, something like this. Okay, so this is the utility that could uninstall or untar or unzip any zip file. Okay, so give it some time to install. Okay, so p7 zip installed. What I can do is, when you get p7, so 7za. Okay, 7za command is there for you. Now just extract this in home mimant 20 td. Give me 1 second. So there is an option that we need to take. Basically, it is E. E means extract. So extract this file in that folder. Okay, so what it says is 1 second. Sorry for this. So the command should be this. Uh, so since I am directly in that folder, you can just run 7za. E means extract and the name of the zip file. So it will start extracting. Okay, so it will take some time to extract. It is once it is extracting, there are 3 disks of .vmdk inside this file. One is disk 1, disk 2, and disk 3, and there is .1 vmx file that is having all the configuration related to this particular VM. Okay, so this vmdk one, that is a disk 1, it is around 13 GB, and the remaining 2 disks are like 0.55 GB. Okay, so it will take some time to extract. By then I will pause. Took around 10-15 minutes. So if I do ls minus lrt, these are these files: vmdk disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, and this is .vmx file. So you see that is around 14 GB of file. So what we will do is, now we have this TDexpress extracted in our local machine. We are going to create a VM out of it. So what I will do is, I am going to create a new machine. I will say new, click on it, then give name of that machine TD, select the operating system. So this VM or virtual machine of TD, it is actually based on OpenSUSE. So I am saying 64-bit. Do next. Then I can choose the hard disk to around, let's say 9 GB. I mean, that is okay. Next. And I'm not going to add any hard disk. I'm just creating it, and later on click on it, and then import that hard disk over here. So on the network part, just have NAT. That is, I think, enough. Don't use anything else, because we need to work on the port forwarding for this particular machine. I will show you how. So I'm just going to delete this. I don't want this remote controller even. I don't want this. I'm going to add one SCSI controller. Okay, and here I'm going to add the disk first. Okay, so you need to add those from here. We have our folder in this one. So let me add this. Add the second one also. Add the third one also. All these are required. Okay, and then choose them one by one. This is added now. The second is also getting added now, and third, this is also getting added now. So we are good with this. No, we have pulled this one. all the hard disk that is having the Teradata installed inside, and we have selected network as NAT. I think that is enough. We don't know to, where we don't want to do or don't need to do anything, and we can finally start it. It will take some time to come up. Now you can see that how it is, how slow it is, right? So let me just say enter. When we pause by, then it will come up. It will take some time. Now our TD image is running, you know. Let me just log in and check. The user ID password for this image is root. Now I just need to run one command called pde state -a. So if this gives you that PD state is running started, it means that your Teradata database is started and you can just connect to it, right? So how to connect? But the problem is the connection cannot be done until unless we don't create some networking port forwarding. Okay, so I am going to go on the settings. There you need to go on networks in advance, just create a port forwarding, and before that what you need to uh, get is what is the current local IP address of this machine. So type in ifconfig. So it is 10.0.2.15, and you also need to know what is the internal IP address of this machine. It is 10.146.0.7. Okay, so when you actually hit this IP address, it is going to be automatically translated. All the requests will be routed to this IP address internally, and when we hit something on this, it may go further inside to this VM running inside the parent VM, I can say. So I will create that entry. I will say TCP host IP is our this IP. The IP is 10.146.0.7, right? Let me just quickly verify. Yeah. So 10.146.0.7, 10.146.0.7. Port is 1025. It is a Teradata port, and guest IP is 10.0.2.15. Again, the IP would be sorry, port is 1025. Let me add one more entry like this. It is 10.146.0.7, and that's a port number 2222, and 10.0.2.15 and 22. So since this particular internal VM, so like I say nested VM, it is running port SSH also on port number 22 SSH port. We can map it to the parent machine for port 2222. Okay, so once you hit on this, it will be automatically routed to the internal VM. Once you hit on this, it is automatically going to be routed to the internal nested VM on port this. So once you do this setting, just say okay. It is updated now, and I have one Teradata SQL assistant through which you can connect to that particular machine. So I will just show you how it looks like. Okay, now I have connected to DBC. What connection did I create is, if you see here, go on ODBC connection. This is the cloud connection I have created. Now if you see, this is my IP address of this machine. It is over here, right? And rest everything is default, the name of the connection, and then DBC and DBC is the username and password to connect to any database. You can just test it. It will show it is successful. It means that I am now able to connect to the nested VM running, and I can just create whatever you want to do. Okay, similarly if you want to connect to sorry similarly if you want to connect to port, if you want to get inside the VM, right, inside the nested VM, what is the possible way? Since we already opened the port number 22, right, uh, I just need to set the password for root user. If you want to log in with root user, I can just say uh, sudo passwd for root user, provide the password. It's changed. Now on this parent VM you can say SSH on port number 2222, root at the rate, what is the internal IP address of it, is 10.02.15, 10.02.15. It may take some time. Give me a second. Okay, so that was my mistake. Actually, we need to just hit this port instead of I was actually picking the guest one, but we should pick the host one. Now it should able to connect. I'm saying yes. And the password I have just created, and now I have logged into the nested VM, internal to nested VM. Okay, there you will see everything, right, related to whatever we have installed over there, right, Virtualbox and everything. So I think this would give enough idea about how to create the nested virtualization and create certain infrastructure in which you will have some complications related to the infrastructure as well as networking, everything, how we can handle this, right? So you can let me know any question if you want to do this, for any of your things, and if you face any issues for any operating system, just connect to me. Okay, and subscribe my channel Byte Big Data, and just keep hooked for such exciting videos in future. Bye.